Hello, and welcome back to our Dig Deeper series here on Patreon. My name is Chloe, and it has been a while. I turned the mic over to Ariana for a while to take a look back with some of our past contributors for old issues. So, thank you so much if you listened to those. It was very exciting to talk to some of our old contributors, see where they're at since they first contributed. We've been doing this for 4 years now, so a lot can happen in that time. And it's always nice to circle back with people and figure out where they are and if they feel like their perspectives have changed since they first wrote their articles. So I am back with you. We are starting our issue 9 contributor series, and I am joined once again by the lovely Heidi Lopez, who has graced our channels before talking about cultural identity and what it's like to grow up in a predominantly white community and then figure out, what it means when you finally get into more of a melting pot. So thank you so much for joining us again, Heidi.
Yeah, of course. I'm always so excited to jump back on and chat.
Yes. So we talked a lot about in our first episode over on Spotify, which you haven't listened to that, go listen to that first and then come on back. But we talked a lot about what it means to, explore identity, what it means to you, how you found it, dove a little deeper once you got out of, your initial community. But in this dig deeper, I want to really dive in and figure out not only what identity means to you, but how you feel like it shapes your life and your experiences. So whether it's on like a day-to-day scale or more of a big picture scale, how do you feel like identity plays a role in your life? Does it affect your choices? Does it affect your friendships? Like, how do you feel like that works for you?
Oh, that's a really good question. I feel as though it may have started out big picture for me, at least, that then affected my day to day. It's kind of been said before where there was a lot of lack of representation, whether it's, news, pop culture, music, movies. I wasn't really seeing myself, my characteristics on screen. And so I feel that then transitioned into my day to day. I do feel it may have limited my goals a bit for some time because I didn't physically see it, I didn't see myself in certain roles. I then thought to myself, "Oh, it's because, there just aren't there." Like,
It's not
then
for me.
yeah, it's not for me, and maybe I should just kinda think of doing something else. Even teachers, when I grew up, I only had white teachers until I hit, I believe, 7th grade, where I had my first Black, teacher. And then after that, again, I had, all white teachers. And it kind of came to a head in university on my last year, senior year of my undergrad. I was doing this immigration, my thesis on immigration, but I had all white professors. And so I unfortunately couldn't really get, I guess, adequate advice,
Mhm.
and there were some that very much helped me, like my art history teacher, my graphic design teacher were always there to, like, kind of push me, help me ask these questions, get more personal, do all of these different things, but then I also had to deal with other people that said, "Well, I can't relate to this, I can't really, like, do any of this stuff," and so that's when I started to think, "Okay, well, you don't have to." Like, "Sorry you can't relate, it's fine, like, I'm sorry, but maybe after, looking and seeing this project, you can empathize and sympathize with
Right.
what's going on with other people," and so that's when I feel like the mold of my limitations kind of stopped there, because then I thought, "Okay, well, I guess I'm gonna have to do it myself,"
Mm.
and then that then transitioned to my graduate thesis book. Like, I didn't know that there wasn't books like that that I was able to read or see, so then I thought, "Well, maybe I can make one and push it out and publish it so that other people can see it, read it, relate to it," and then they're like, "Oh, well, if one person did this, maybe I can too," and so I feel like that was a struggle growing up. It's a lot better now than I was, 10, 15 years ago, of course, but I feel like it's not as, progressed representation-wise as it should, especially with, like, not going too deep into it, but, like, a lot of politics that have happened in the past. So I feel it kind of went backwards, the progress we have made.
Mhm.
So which is unfortunate,
Yeah.
which then builds up, a new generation of limitations. Like a lot of, new Gen Z kids, they're a lot more strong, I can say now, than my generation because I was kind of like, limited and kind of shy. But these new Gen Z people are
They're
like
bold.
they're they are not playing around, they're very blunt, which is amazing, I wish I was like that, but at least they have that confidence, they have that, but I feel, because of, news media and everything that's been happening the past, 6 years, 6, 7 years, it's good that we have a generation that's stronger than what we had before,
Yeah.
but, uh, that shouldn't mean, like, we should stop progress, we should stop, representation for all. Like we should continue to push that so that we
Right.
don't have, other people say, "Oh, well, I didn't see them, I didn't see her, so I thought, oh, I can't really do that." Like, no, you set your own limits, and it shouldn't be, influenced by what you see. But a lot of times it is, and you can't really do anything about it until you're able to grow out of that mold.
Right. I mean, for whatever reason, if we don't see it or read it or hear it, we don't think it's possible. So somebody has to pave the way. But you brought up an interesting point about your thesis statement and giving it to your professors and how they couldn't necessarily relate to you, and like obviously they can still bring perspectives to the table and try to like help you, but the whole concept of peer review, like yes, they can help you edit it and they can bring like a perspective to it and they can appreciate it for what you're trying to do, which is educate them, but you don't necessarily have like a peer, a true peer to like read it from that cultural identity perspective and give you that feedback. Like, I
Right.
don't know, how did you feel about that?
I was truthfully, I was annoyed, but also I was also not surprised because I have done past projects that have touched on them, but I was always met with the same thing. I do think back to when I was in high school, it's always made like a really big impact. I always will remember this. And I feel bad saying it because my art teacher in high school, she was the sweetest. She was amazing. She was always helpful. But we had a conversation where there was two competitions to enter for this art competition, and I asked her for one of the waivers, and there was two extra, one for each competition. And she asked me, "Honestly, it's up to you, but I don't know which one you should go to because one is more predominantly for white students, and then the other was more so for Black students." And so that was I feel like that was the first time I kind of had like a pause mentally on my art, what it meant to me, and also just like a competition. I didn't even think about that. Like, I didn't think about, oh, it's mainly for like, the white kids, white students, because they're often the ones that are awarded, or there's a specific competition for the Black students or the Black arts and all that. And so I was like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I had to, like, give her an answer then, and I said, "Okay, never mind, like, I'm fine, like, I don't think I'm gonna enter," and I didn't enter into any because I just felt a little uncomfortable,
Yeah.
and I like, how do you how do you choose which competition to go into? And so